The Bassier High School has for long been a cornerstone of our national story. For decades, it stood as a beacon of opportunity and excellence in education, a place where young minds were shaped, lifelong friendships were formed, and generations of Kittitians and Nevisians were prepared to go out into the world and make their mark. From its classrooms came teachers, doctors, entrepreneurs, public servants, artists, athletes, even politicians and prime ministers who have contributed to building this nation and representing it proudly across the globe. Undeniably so, this school was a symbol of the belief that education is a pathway to progress. But over time, that beacon was dimmed due to political mischievousness. Following that, between 2015 and 2022, all we saw were delays, dark clouds of uncertainty, and avoidable missteps that left the once proud BHS without a stable home. Plans were announced and re-announced. Expectations were raised and then disappointed. And what should have been a straightforward national priority became entangled in indecision, controversy, and unfulfilled commitments. The result was painful for many. A school that once stood proudly at the heart of Bassier was left in a state that fell far short of the standards our students and teachers deserved. For many citizens, the promise of a new Bassier High School began to feel like something that might never truly happen. But that story began changing from 2022 onward. Under the leadership of Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terrance Drew, Minister of Education, Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, and the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party-led government, the long-standing promise of a new Bassier High School is no longer confined to speeches or plans on paper. It is now a project in full motion, fully designed, fully mobilized, and under active construction, moving step by step toward delivery of a modern educational institution worthy of the proud legacy of the Bassier High School and the bright future of the students who will walk its halls for generations to come. From the beginning, the Drew-led administration made it clear that the people of this country, specifically the students, parents, and teachers of the Bassier High School, past and present, deserved more than announcements. They deserved delivery. They deserved honesty. They deserved progress they could see. That is why this government took a clear decision that the Bassier High School will be rebuilt on its original historic site on Victoria Road, restoring the school to a place where its legacy was built and where its future would now rise. In August 2022, high on this government's agenda, following their historic win, the cabinet under the Drew-led administration publicly confirmed that they had reaffirmed this decision.
That the new Bassier High School will be built right here at its old Bassier High School site.
In the 2023 budget address, Prime Minister Drew further stated that the government would push forward with rebuilding Bassier High School at its original location. This was a statement of principle, a statement that this government would fix what had been mishandled and move with seriousness to give the nation a modern, world-class educational facility. The truth is that, under the last administration, the Bassier High School became one of the clearest examples of promises made without delivery. For years, the former administration proposed building the new Bassier High School. Yet, despite the repeated announcement, the school was never built. Even more troubling, official reports showed that public money was paid out on the project during that period. $11 million was paid out in management fees to a regionally based company for the construction of the Bassier High School in 2021. A further $2.7 million in 2022 was paid out for contract payments to that same company, close to $14 million of our money paid to this company to begin construction, and absolutely nothing was done. And though this company failed to fulfill their duties, none of this money was ever reimbursed. So when people ask, why has there been so much concern, skepticism, or anxiety around this project? The answer is simple. You are concerned because you, the people, remember. You remember the years of talk, the years of waiting, and you remember the significant amount of sums that were paid out while the new Bastia High School still did not materialize. But the difference now is that this administration did not continue that pattern. It reset the project, changed course, returned to the original site, advanced the design, completed demolition, mobilized construction, and moved the school from rhetoric to reality. And what is all this for? It really comes down to what is just and what is right, and what you truly deserve as a people. A modern, new Bastia High School featuring dozens of classrooms, music rooms, science labs, computer labs, a large auditorium, sporting facilities, accessibility features, and climate-smart design elements. The Legacy School, as it is popularly coined by Education Minister Hanley, will also include a 400-meter track. This massive undertaking is about restoring confidence in public education and creating a learning environment that reflects the hopes we have for our young people. And it is about showing that governments can still make a commitment, pursue it seriously, and above all else, deliver it. So where exactly are we now? As I said, under this SKNLP-led government, the project has moved beyond promise and into execution. The demolition of the old structures of the Bastia High School on Victoria Road began in December 2023. In 2024, the government confirmed that demolition works had started, site mapping had begun, and draft conceptual designs were underway. By March 2025, Minister Dr. Jeffrey Hanley announced that construction would begin in the coming weeks. Then in June 2025, the government confirmed that construction had officially commenced with large-scale excavation work underway on site. This means that the project is not in an abstract planning phase. It is active, and it is moving through the stages that serious construction projects move through before buildings begin to rise above ground. Let's fast forward to today. Last week, I journeyed to Barbados on a mission to provide the people of St. Kitts and Nevis with a clearer, more direct understanding of what is happening with the Bastia High School project. There, I visited the facilities of the Maloney Group and Preconco specifically, the entities involved in producing the precast structural systems for the new Bastia High School. There, I met with senior members of the group, including Mark Maloney himself, and toured the production facilities where components for the project were already being prepared. What became immediately clear is that this is not guesswork, and it is not theater. It is an active, highly coordinated construction operation involving design, production, shipping, logistics, and installation planning. Just a bit about the Maloney Group and Preconco. The Maloney Group, specifically Preconco, is a locally registered company operated by Mr. Mark Maloney, a Kittitian himself. Preconco has vast history and experience working across the region, specifically in St. Kitts, since the early 1990s, having won the bid to construct close to 100 homes in St. Peter's. The Maloney Group is not a single small contractor. It is a large, diversified Caribbean group with more than 50 companies and approximately 1,000 employees and subcontractors, with activities spanning manufacturing, construction, precast concrete, roofing, paving, finishing, cement, and infrastructure. The point here is important. The BHS project is being supported by a company with an established local connection, an impressive industrial base, in-house manufacturing capacity, multiple specialized units, and demonstrated experience managing large-scale building systems. A major reason people may not yet fully appreciate the progress of this project is because of the construction system being used. Bastia High School is being built using a precast concrete system, sometimes casually referred to as pre-slabs or precast panels and slabs. What that means is that large-scale structural elements of the building are manufactured in a controlled factory environment rather than all being farmed and cast on the construction site itself. This is very, very different from the block-by-block construction that we are used to. At the factory, the process entails steel being pre-cut, pre-bent and assembled. Molds are prepared. Electrical provisions and other internal components are set in place. Concrete is cast into wall panels, floor slabs, columns, and related building elements. Those elements are then allowed to cure under controlled conditions, tested for quality, labeled, and organized for transport. The system is designed so that once foundations are ready, the structure can go up quickly. And in this case, quickly does not mean simple. It means efficient, engineered, and sequenced. This is exactly why some people may not see a dramatic amount of visible vertical work in the earliest phase, as with this method, much of the work is happening before the pieces arrive on site, in design offices, fabrication yards, production lines, and shipping logistics. For example, I was able to visit some of Preconco's ongoing and our completed projects. One of the most notable is the Villages at Coverley development in Barbados, one of the largest housing developments on the island. This project alone includes the construction of hundreds of homes, along with community infrastructure such as town square, commercial spaces, and recreational facilities. The scale of the development demonstrates the group's ability to deliver large residential communities using the same structural systems now being deployed for the Bastia High School. Another project currently under construction is the Aspire condominium development, a large multi-story building rising on the south coast of Barbados. Construction on this building began just last year, and by the time of my visit, the structure had already risen rapidly, illustrating the speed at which the precast system allows building to take shape once installation begins. At the Preconco factory, the process on display was one of precision and control. Representatives explained that each element is made to exact dimensions, with laser-guided preparation, daily concrete testing, curing, protocols, and numbered sequencing for installation. They also explained that every component is tracked to its place within the building system. I was able to see the wall panel side and the floor slab side being constructed, as well as how the reinforcement steel is prepared. I also saw first-hand foundation kits, product storage, loading arrangements, and the production areas where structural components for the projects are built before being shipped out. Representatives further explained that for this system, not everything is cast at the final destination. Instead, the factory performs much of the heavy structural preparation so that what arrives in St. Kitts can be installed in a much faster and more efficient manner. So the question now is, has construction of the Bastia High School truly started? Yes, construction has started. As expressed by the minister last year, June, construction had commenced with the excavation of the site. This ran concurrently with the rendering and molds, design plans, etc. being prepared and tested at the factory in Barbados. As of now, the Bastia High School is fully designed and precasting and molding works at the factory has already begun, with the first foundation kits, 4 containers full to be specific, have already been loaded for shipment from Barbados to St. Kitts and being shipped out on the 10th of March, with subsequent shipments almost weekly. The foundation kits are pre-built reinforcement and prepared structural components so that once they arrive in St. Kitts and foundations are installed, the next phase of the structure can follow in sequence, which is the assembling of the precasted panels, which are already being constructed as well and will be shipped subsequently. So the answer is yes, construction has started and is actively on the way. The full build of the project is expected to run for just under 2 years, beginning this month, March 2026. And with the first shipments now leaving the factory in Barbados, the project officially moves from the production floor to the construction site here in St. Kitts and Nevis on Victoria Road. What this means is that the next phase of the project begins in earnest. Once these shipments arrive in St. Kitts, the foundation kits which include pre-cut steel, reinforcement, and structural components prepared in advance, they will be transported directly to this site where installation will begin. These kits allow the construction teams to move quickly and efficiently into the foundation stage of the project. From there, additional shipments will continue to arrive, bringing the wall panels, floor slabs, columns, and other structural elements required to assemble the building. With this system, construction unfolds in a carefully coordinated sequence. Foundations are prepared and installed, and once those foundations are complete, cranes will begin lifting the precast panels and slabs into place. Piece by piece, level by level, the structure of the new Basseterre High School will begin to rise. But this project is not only about concrete and steel, it is also about people. As construction progresses, the project will create meaningful opportunities for local workers and businesses.
95% of the workforce for the Basseterre High School will be all local workforce.
Up to 100 jobs are expected to be made available to Kittitian and Nevis Hon workers across various trades and support services. This means economic activity for families, opportunities for skilled trades, and increased business for suppliers and service providers within the community. Over the coming months, as shipments continue to arrive and construction advances through each phase, the people of St. Nevis will begin to see something they have waited many years to see: the physical rise of a new Basseterre High School, a modern institution built to serve generations to come. So it is understandable that some citizens still want more visible reassurance, as we are coming from a period in which too many things were announced and too little was delivered. But with a project like Basseterre High School, visibility on the ground in St. Kitts is not the only measure of progress or action. Action is also happening in factory production, engineering, procurement, logistics, and shipment. That is exactly what the public does not always see, but it is what makes proper delivery possible. So while the structure may not yet be fully visible above ground in the early stages, that does not mean the project is standing still. Much of the work that drives a project like this happens before the walls begin to rise, in engineering, manufacturing, preparation, and logistics. Through the precast system being used, critical components of the school are being produced and prepared off-site, so that once they arrive and installation begins, construction can move forward quickly and efficiently. So let the record be clear. The Basseterre High School project is not trapped in a cycle of empty promises stemming from the former administration. The site has been cleared. The designs have been advanced. Construction has officially begun. Structural systems are being produced. Foundation kits have already been shipped. Deliveries are being sequenced. And the process is moving forward under a clear timeline. Now, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have every right to ask questions. They have every right to expect accountability, but they should also know this: there is no concrete evidence in the design in the factory, at the port, and on the ground that the Basseterre High School is being built. This government made a decision. This government reset the project. This government moved it from frustration to forward motion. And this government intends to deliver a new Basseterre High School that will stand not as another slogan, but as proof that promises can still become progress.
Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terrance Drew, members of the media, Mrs. Lanicia Collins-Williams, our sign language interpreter, and to all our viewers and listeners joining us across St. Nevis and in the diaspora, good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. I am Javan Library Press Secretary. The Roundtable continues to serve as an important platform in the government's ongoing commitment to openness, accessibility, and public engagement. It provides an opportunity for members of the media to engage the Prime Minister directly on issues of national importance, seek clarification on matters of public interest, and help ensure that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis remain informed and up to date on the work of their government. Today, we are pleased to be joined by representatives from SKNIS, Kailoni Johnson, ZIZ, Zai Hendrickson, SKN Source, Emily Brandon, Freedom FM, Avery Liebird, and SKN Newsline, Andre Huey. We thank you all for being here today and for your continued role in helping to inform the national conversation. At this time, I kindly ask everyone present to ensure that your cell phones are on silent to avoid any disruptions during the discussions. We will begin with opening remarks from the Honorable Prime Minister. Following his statement, the floor will then be open for questions and discussions from members of the media. Thank you once again for joining us, and thank you all those who are tuned in. Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Press Secretary, Mr. Javan Liebert, as usual, for your tremendous work. I want to welcome all of the members of the press here with us this afternoon. I hope all of us had lunch already. And so we're in a good mood. I want to say to all of our listeners, our citizens, residents, that this continues to be a meaningful medium through which I'm able to share information directly with you and through the press who is here as well. I'm told that this is the third time I'm having an event like this, sitting like this for the year, and it's not the end of March as yet. So that is definitely more than once every 4 weeks, which I think really tells the story of us, my team, myself, as Prime Minister, seeking to make sure that you, the people, are always informed. Allow me from the onset just to mention a few things by way of update, and I'll give the opportunity to the press here to then ask any question that they wish to ask. Over the past several weeks, we have been extremely active on the local, regional, and international stage. We have hosted a historic regional meeting, strengthened key diplomatic relationships, expanded international partnerships, and received encouraging assessments regarding our economic direction, even within the challenges. I will briefly outline. Firstly, from CARICOM 50, this was the regular meeting of the heads of government, of the members of CARICOM. This is a significant meeting, being the 50th meeting of heads, not the 50th anniversary of CARICOM, but the 50th heads of government meeting. This conference was held here in St. Kitts and Nevis from February 24th to 27th. As chair of the Caribbean community, it was a privilege to welcome my regional colleagues, international partners, and stakeholders to our shores for what proved to be a productive and forward-looking meeting focused on strengthening regional unity and togetherness and collective action. The discussions were wide-ranging but deeply, of course, meaningful. They centered around issues that will define the Caribbean's future, which include regional food and nutrition security, climate resilience and sustainable development, strengthening the CARICOM single market and economy, regional security cooperation, energy transition and renewable energy development, deepening international partnerships. Key matters, of course, to advance the region. The matters include, we discuss reparatory justice, the indigenization of the University of the West Indies, security matters within our sister country, Haiti, regional security and border issues, governance and financing. And detailed information of the discussions and decisions made can be found in a joint communique which was released following the meeting. This was disseminated by CARICOM on the official platform as well as by SKNS right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So the heads of government, CARICOM 50, and I'm sure the press would have questions to ask. You would have known that I traveled to all of the heads of the regular members or full members of CARICOM based on what we perceived was happening so that I could have had that one-on-one engagement in private, face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, to make sure that CARICOM would be on its best footing and that the perception would just remain what they were, the negative perceptions. Each leader committed to the integration movement. I remember when I was in Trinidad and I met with the Prime Minister of Trinidad, she made a statement in Parliament. She invited me to Parliament and made a statement, and her statement demonstrated her commitment, her country's commitment to CARICOM, and it was profound. And I want to thank her for that and all of the members. This is the first time, I think, in maybe a decade or so, that we have had all of the regular members or full members of CARICOM present for a meeting. So on that basis alone, it was quite successful. And the discussions that ensued as a result were, of course, meaningful and would help to advance our region. I want to thank all those who were involved, Dr. Marcus Natter, who headed the organizing committee, and his team, Director Vera Galloway from my office, Foreign Affairs, who did their work, and all others involved, including the CARICOM Secretariat. I want to thank security forces who did an excellent job in protecting the dignitaries who were here and the high-ranking officials from regional governments and international governments and institutions as well. We had our special guests, and I want to thank them from the UAE, from Saudi Arabia, from the Afrexim Bank, who made a presentation. And of course, we had the presence of the Secretary of State of the United States of America, U.S. Secretary Marco Rubio. And so we want to thank him for his positive engagement with CARICOM at this time. I want to point out, I think in such a short time, this is the second time that I've had the opportunity to engage directly with him. And it demonstrates the United States' position in engaging CARICOM and CARICOM's position in engaging the United States, and St. Kitts and Nevis's position in engaging as well. And so this, of course, is very important for our advancement as a country, as we have to engage regionally and internationally, which would put us in our best position so that our people can directly benefit as a result. So CARICOM, I think, was a tremendous success. I then had an official, after CARICOM, I traveled to Ghana, where I had an official state visit, and I want to thank His Excellency President of Ghana, President Mahama, and his wife for welcoming us, the government and people of Ghana as well, who really, literally rolled out the red carpet for me. I was taken aback as to the level of respect and engagement given to me. And I can't thank the President, the government, and people of Ghana enough for that tremendous reception and engagement. As you know, I also visited the chiefs in Ghana while I was there. And I really want to extend my deepest gratitude to the chiefs for receiving me as a long-lost son whose ancestors left the west coast of Africa hundreds of years ago. As I said, they left as enslaved people, forcibly removed from their country, but their descendant returned not just as a free person, but as Prime Minister. And I say that with all humility. It shows the resilience of our people And so they received me with open arms. I was able to visit a number of critical areas in Ghana, University of Ghana, an excellent learning institution, along with other governmental institutions. I was able to visit W.E.B. Du Bois, his library. I was able to visit the monument of the founder of Ghana's independence, Kwame Nkrumah. I was able also to visit Black Star Square, where they held their independence celebration. And so it was a meaningful visit. But apart from all of that formality, there were tangible benefits for our people. One, our diplomatic relations. We now have visa-free access to Ghana. It has been signed, and that is almost completed. Our people will be able to travel to Ghana with a regular passport, not just diplomatic passports or official passport, but a regular passport. Any of you around the table can visit Ghana. And if you get a chance to visit the motherland, the West Coast where our people came from, it would be a good place to go and visit. I also visited the dungeons where our people were held in captivity. It's hard to describe it, but to see that our people were subjected to such inhumane conditions, words cannot explain exactly what you feel when you visit these dungeons, and understanding that millions and millions of our people were forcibly held and shipped across the Atlantic Ocean from these dungeons. And so that in itself was meaningful to me personally. I also would note that educational opportunities at the University of Ghana for our people. And we also signed a memorandum of understanding for healthcare workers. As you know, St. Kitts and Nevis receive a lot of nurses from Philippines, and so going to Ghana and be able to get Ghanaian nurses to add to our workforce in the health sector is a sustainable way, and I think is an excellent arrangement with our sister country, Ghana. And so I want to thank Ghana, the president, and the people, of course, for their open arms, how they would have received me, and the tangible benefits to our people. I want to see our people going to Ghana to study and taking advantage of the opportunities, to visit, if that's all you want to do. And of course, we will have the services of the healthcare professionals so that whatever gaps we may have, we will be able to fulfill them or fill them and be sustainable in the sense that we have multiple areas where we can have healthcare workers while we continue to build our own healthcare workforce here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And then lastly, we had the IMF report, which I wouldn't go too much into and give you the press the opportunity to speak or ask any question about anything. But I want to really say that we, as I said from the beginning, the CBI would be the most challenging matter for me because the economy had become too dependent on this vulnerable program, a program that we can see has affected many countries in the political positions, and a program which would have drawn a lot of attention to our country. And so we were able to make the changes and strengthen the CBI program. But as I said, we will go through a period of transition from so heavily dependent on the CBI to the point where we develop a diversified economy. And I've spoken about this multiple times. And as you can see, we are now moving on with expansion of agriculture, renewable energy, tourism, and renewable energy. So we are now progressing on multiple legs, so to speak, with respect to our economic development and advancement. We cannot go back to where we used to heavily depend on the CBI program. It is risky. If today or tomorrow something were to happen to the program, where would we stand? But because we have made changes, even though there are challenges, we are, of course, optimistic because the economy continues to grow, even with the decline of CBI, showing resilience and that diversity is working and making us less vulnerable. And so we'll continue to build out the different aspects of our economy to the point where we can reach to a sustainable island state, and we are on our way. Let me say we see the war that is taking place in the Middle East. That is going to have impact on us. We already see the price of gasoline or fuel. We already seen that price risen. We have seen that the price is rising. As it continues to rise, it will affect us here in St. Kitts and Nevis as well. That is why it's important that we transition from fossil fuel-based energy generation to renewable energy. The sun can be harnessed, and no matter what is happening, the sun will shine. And we can predict how much our energy will cost. That is why this month we are going to release the RFP for our 50 megawatt solar plant. And I want to say, with respect to geothermal, a contract has been sent to the company that won the bid. This is the most advanced that we have ever reached with respect to geothermal. And so in short order, we are hoping that that contract will be signed and we will start drilling for geothermal this year. Renewable energy will be one of the foundations of our country, of our economic landscape. It is resilient because the sun will shine and the volcano will continue to produce heat, and those things will belong to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We will not be succumb to the fluctuation of the price of fuel that fuel that comes from other nations. And so it is important. I hope we are recognizing as a people how important it is that we develop our own energy sources here in St. Kitts and Nevis that God has given to us in heat through the sun and heat through geothermal. We also have wind, we have biomass, and we have waves. So we have about 5 sources of energy that need developing. So we are not short of energy. We are just in the process of harnessing that energy, of course. And so I really want to point that out. Let me say something further, that there is significant good news. Good news that the FinCEN advisory has been lifted. And the FinCEN advisory has been lifted because of the significant work that we have done to strengthen our CBI, transition our CBI, and to make sure that our CBI program is no longer questioned. Initially, when I started to clean up the CBI program, many questions were asked. I was criticized heavily by the opposition about CBI woes, because the days where a buyer met a seller and determined the price were over. That is what got other CBI, was getting our CBI into trouble, and that is what might have resulted in actions elsewhere. I'm simply saying that those days are over, and they had been over for some time. And it was irresponsible by the former Prime Minister, who said it in a press conference or I think it was a town hall in constituency number 1, that I do not understand CBI. The price in CBI, as he said, is determined. He said the price of the product is determined when a buyer meets a seller. If that is what you're going to call our citizenship, which is supposed to be sacred, and if that is how you are going to offer it to people, you are putting our reputation at risk. You are putting our passport at risk, and therefore that type of policy is no more. And as a result, the FinCEN advisory has been lifted. Our CBI program has been strengthened, and our passport continues to grow stronger every day. I cannot predict the future. and this is important what I'm about to say. However, I want you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, to know that I will do everything in my power to make sure that the CBI is a program of integrity, transparency, and unquestionable, in the sense that we will make sure that all that is to be done correctly would be done, and we'll continue strengthening the program. So we have good news. The FinCEN advisory, when it's on, there are issues of banking, because there are some banks who may not want to do business in the jurisdiction because you have a FinCEN advisory. There are investors who would not invest because you have a FinCEN advisory. Because of our work and our diplomatic work, we have been able to see the lifting of the FinCEN advisory. The other matter that we worked on when I got in was with respect to the visa-free access to Canada. When I came in, we had total, there was no visa-free access. But now we have partial visa-free access. So we had advance. So in short order, we have had the success of the lifting of the FinCEN advisory. And secondly, regaining visa-free access partially to Canada and establishing new relationships with countries to strengthen our visa-free access possibilities. And so we have been advancing St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis's reputation is back, and will continue to strengthen a country that must be respected and counted among the respectable nations of the world. I want to read a statement now with respect to the SSZ. I know it's a lot this afternoon, but I've been out for some time, but this is important because I have officially now received the Destiny proposed project from the Premier, His Honorable Mark Brantley. And so I want to make a statement with respect to it. The federal government received the Destiny application from the Nevis Island Administration on January 29, 2026, and the matter remains under active review. I want the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to clearly understand one important constitutional point. The federal government does not have a general power over development taking place on Nevis. I want to say that again. The federal government does not have a general power over the development taking place on Nevis. Under the Constitution, Section 106 of the Constitution and Section 119, many of the major issues connected to development on Nevis fall within the authority of the Nevis Island Administration and the Nevis Island Legislature. Here is the full list of matters written in the Constitution for which Nevis has full authority, as stated in Section 106 and Schedule 5 of the Constitution. 1. Airports and seaports, education, extraction and processing of minerals, fisheries, health and welfare, labor, land and buildings vested in the Crown, licensing of imports into and exports out of the Federation, agriculture, amenities for tourists, animals, archaeological and historical sites and monuments, borrowing of monies or obtaining grants of monies for the purpose of the Nevis Island Administration and the making of grants and loans for those purposes, cemeteries, cinemas, conservation and supply of water, dangerous or inflammable substances, economic planning and development other than national planning and development, employment of persons who are not citizens, hotels, restaurants, bars, casinos, and other similar establishments, housing, industries, trade and business, land and building, other than land and buildings vested in the Crown and specifically appropriated to the use of the government, including holding of land by persons who are not citizens, manufacture and supply of electricity, parks and other places for public recreation, prevention and control of fires, roads and highways, sports and cultural activities. And so I really wanted to put that forward. Those are matters assigned by the Constitution to Nevis, and the federal government must respect those limits. The federal government's role arises where a proposal engages federal responsibilities and national constitutional questions. That includes matters such as immigration, customs, law enforcement, courts, the operation of federal laws, treaty obligations, and other issues that fall within the constitutional authority of the Federation. Where those matters are engaged, the federal government has a duty to proceed carefully, lawfully, and in the national interests, always ensuring that our Constitution is not violated and our sovereignty is not infringed upon. The government has also received the report of the ad hoc committee that I established in January 2026, which contains sound recommendations for strengthening the SSZ Authorization Act. Those recommendations have been discussed in Cabinet, and they will result in amendments to the SSZ Authorization Act, with first reading at the next sitting of the National Assembly, which is imminent. As it relates to the current proposed development agreement, the review process will be initiated in a way that allows the federal government to receive advice from a broad cross-section of professional persons as recommended by the Prime Minister's ad hoc committee. The federal government remains committed to a lawful, responsible, and transparent process that respects the Constitution, respects the authority of Nevis in matters assigned to Nevis, and protects the national interest of the Federation and our sovereignty. There end my statement with respect to the Destiny Project that was sent to the federal cabinet in January. I want to say carefully that this administration has supported strongly development in Nevis. For example, the geothermal, which is a multi-million-dollar undertaking. This federal government has guaranteed and supported all of the financing. And we are talking tens of millions of dollars. In the first instance from the CDB of $17 million, then from the Saudis of about $20 million, and then we are seeking to get another $11 million from IDB, and I'm talking US dollars. The federal government also shares proportionately with the Nevis Island administration grant funding that we receive from the Republic of China, Taiwan, which never used to happen before. And the federal government has also guaranteed a loan from the National Bank, or supported a loan from the National Bank for the development of the Vance Emery International Airport. And so we are deeply committed to ensure that Nevis gets its share of development. And with respect to the CBI proceeds, we have now a transparent and open way in which we share those proceeds. And Nevis gets its portion accordingly. And those things are really for the development of Nevis, and we will continue to support them. When we look at federal programs, such as the Aspire program, where each child between 5 and 18 get a seed grant of $1,000. That includes Nevis as well. When we look at the reset program for independence, that included Nevis. The dividends that were paid, those included Nevis. And so we are definitely ensuring that all that must be done for Nevis's development, we would. And I clearly state from the Constitution what is under the jurisdiction of the Nevis Island Administration and Legislature, and what is under the jurisdiction of the federal government. In our Constitution, St. Kitts as an entity does not exist. The Constitution has in it two entities, St. Kitts and Nevis as a federation, and Nevis Island and Nevis Island administration. There is no St. Kitts Island administration. And so, as the federal parliament, cabinet rather, I will tend to these things that the Constitution says that I should attend to. And I've pointed them out in my statement with respect to the Destiny project. And so with that, I will bring my statements to an end and give you the press an opportunity to engage me. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister colleagues. I'm starting today because I need to ask two questions.
Yes.
One coming from what you just spoke about with regard to the SSC, and you said it was also in relation to Destiny, but it was very broad. So I want to ask specifically about the recommendations that would have come from your ad hoc committee and in your capacity as chairman of the cabinet, what you are able to share with us that will lead to those amendments to the legislation, and what you can tell us specifically about what was contained in the proposal from Destiny, because I think that is what most people are very anxious to know about. We understand that things are perhaps still in negotiations or under discussion, and so everything cannot be said, but if there is anything you can tell the public, I'm quite sure they would like to hear. The other I would like to ask is in your capacity as chairman of CARICOM. Over the weekend just past, there was the Shield of the Americas meeting. There are 35 nations that make up the Americas. 3 of those nations who are invited to the meeting come from the Caribbean. Of those 3, 2 from CARICOM were invited. Those 3 Caribbean nations were Dominican Republic, Guyana, Trinidad, and Tobago, and we know who the 2 from CARICOM are. Is there any discussion, because we would have known about this meeting ahead of the CARICOM summit here in St. Kitts and Nevis, was there any discussion about those CARICOM partners sharing with the rest of the grouping what those discussions were over the weekend past at this Shield of the Americas, how it is going to impact us in the region, and whether or not they will be prepared not only to speak on behalf of their own countries, who I'm quite sure they were there to represent singularly, but if since we have not been invited as members of the Americas to be a part of those discussions, whether they will speak on behalf of the rest of us who did not have a voice and were not given that opportunity.
Right, thank you very much. With respect to the SSZ, what I would say is that the committee I've set up to act almost independently so that it can advise me in its independence. And so they have looked at it. A number of recommendations have been made. I would not go through them because they are very specific legally, and the AG is collating them at this time to present to me. And so that would come out, of course, before we go to Parliament, and it will be circulated, and it will be circulated quite soon as well. When that final document is there, then I can discuss it. And the reason why I'm saying that, just in case I mention anything here, and that would may not make it to the final final piece of legislation, or bill rather, you'll have to go back and discuss why and so forth. So I wait until that is completed so that when it's presented, I can speak to it, right? With respect to Destiny, as I said, I have received it. But in the legislation for the SSZ, as far as it stands right now, which I know would be kept in there, is that there would be an oversight committee. That committee is being put together. I think is almost completed by now, and I think it will be expanded, I think, and then it will be presented to them. And all this is in short order, presented to them so that they can look at it in their independence and then feed back to us what they. What I don't want to do is to go through and do the work of what the committee should be doing. I'll be prejudicing the work of the committee if I go through there and see things. But as I said in the statement and speak broadly, I cannot tell Nevis based on the Constitution, and I've listed it, Section 106 and Section 119. I cannot tell Nevis what type of development to have. The Premier has that authority by the Constitution. So to do, where we come in with respect to anything that involves the federal government, which I've read, some of them being, of course, the immigration, customs, and so forth, our sovereignty, courts, and so. So if any of those, so my job here as the Prime Minister and the head of the federal cabinet is to make sure that no development would encroach on the Constitution. And so that committee, that advisory committee, is what would help me and inform me to say, Mr. Prime Minister, this agreement or that agreement does not, or it does. And when that comes, I will then take that advice on board. That will come, of course, to the cabinet. We'll write back and say, look, these are the areas of concern. We are not telling you what to do, because if I do that, I'll be violating the Constitution. However, I am saying that whatever is to be done cannot violate these federal responsibilities. And so I want the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to know that I take that very seriously. Part of the reason why I set up the SSZ is to make sure that any major development that comes must go through that level of scrutiny. Why do I say that? Look at the prison project. The prison project admitted 5,500 citizenships, which can equal to about 20 to 25,000 people, which is really half of the population of St. Kitts and Nevis. And when the former Prime Minister was asked, how many citizenships would you offer on this prison project? He said, it's an industry secret. And then later, in a town hall meeting, said that I do not know anything about CBI. The price for CBI is when a seller meets a buyer and determines the price of the product. My citizenship is not a product. People don't buy my citizenship. People are invited to apply for citizenship after making a minimum amount of investment. And if they are found worthy through a strict process of due diligence, then they are given the opportunity to become citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. And if they violate any laws, even after having that, their citizenship can be taken away, which I have done. Because I am not, as we say in local parlance, idling with anybody who will bring disrepute to our country and our country's name. And so, in a sense, I think that is where we stand with respect to the questions that you may ask. With respect to, just moving on, you asked about then, and let me look right here, that was Destiny, that was the SSZ. You talk about the chairman, CARICOM, correct. Right, so the Shield of America's meeting, some countries were invited to it. They had a discussion. I have not had a debriefing on it. I was, I think, away in Ghana, attending to the matters of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I cannot really comment or speak to something where I was not a part, and we have not had a CARICOM meeting subsequently to see if any formal information would come. But I know that the meeting did take place. The whole of the world would have seen the meeting as such. And as more information becomes available, I would be able to speak to it. Let me say, of course, that my role and goal here is to put St. Kitts and Nevis first in everything that I do. And my action so far has suggested that. And so the question you asked about a meeting that I was not invited to is a meeting I really cannot comment on at this particular time. I would, however, say that St. Kitts and Nevis has been very active diplomatically regionally and internationally. I had the opportunity to engage directly with the Secretary of State of the United States of America, advancing St. Kitts and Nevis's positions and things, and our own agenda in that type of engagement. And of course, broader regional matters I seek to advance as well. But I cannot speak to any more details on a meeting that I don't have all that details on.
If they would indulge me and you as well, it's not so much about whether or not you can comment on the meeting, because I know you weren't at the meeting, but whether or not, knowing that the meeting was coming and the discussion would be there, that those two countries who are part of CARICOM would at least advise the other members of what took place. And if we are not concerned that, given the fact that the Americas are 35 nations, that less than half of them were present at a meeting, which is likely to have outcomes which affect all of us.
Right. I understand your concern, and I don't take your concern lightly. And I would really wait until the opportunity comes to see what happens there. But the meeting took place after CARICOM, and so we would not have met since the meeting took place. But I understand exactly what you're asking, and should that become available, I would definitely inform.
Andre Huey, SK Newsline,
Yes.
and TVC Channel 40. Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon, Andre.
Two questions, one on CBI and one on the SSC. Let me start with the SSC first. The Premier has raised concerns that there's a committee, ad hoc committee that you have, and the other committee that's looking at the project and the proposal, rather, from the agreement from the Nevis Allen administration on the Destiny project will somehow unduly delay the approval of the project, or for the project to go forward. And he spoke very passionately about this at his last press conference. The proposed amendments that you spoke of from the ad hoc committee that will eventually go to Parliament, do you anticipate that this will go to Parliament before any comments or any recommendation is offered on the proposed agreement on the Destiny project? And as such, are you sharing any concerns or speaking to or if you could speak to the concerns of the Premier that these processes will somehow delay the project and could potentially derail the project? And as it relates to the CBI, we saw recently, just last week actually, where visa-free access to the UK for nationals of St. Lucia was removed. And one of the concerns raised in the memo that addressed this issue has to do with the CBI program there, where a number of their nationals, a number of people who are getting St. Lucian citizenship were applying for asylum in the UK. As it pertains to St. Kitts and Nevis, are we aware of any persons who would have attained citizenship from St. Kitts and Nevis, whether through the program or otherwise, who have applied for asylum, whether in the UK or the Europe or wherever? And do you think that this will somehow impact our program and our ability to maintain visa-free access to Europe and to the UK? Those two for now.
Right. Thank you very much. And I'm happy that you really brought up the CBI issue and what's happening. The AG reported to me because he had an engagement with one of the international partners, and reported that the numbers that seek asylum are extremely low from St. Kitts and Nevis's end, especially since we have made the changes. And I note that this is very much welcome by our international partners. So I can say that. We have had before, but we have seen a significant drop-off because of the changes. And if that is a basis on which that is done, we don't see any threat based on our numbers presently, if that is the basis, as you are reporting. And so I'm happy. But if we are kept up in nonsense about buyer meets seller and price is determined for the product, I can tell you without a doubt that we would have been on that list today. And so that is with respect to the asylum question and the CBI. With respect to the Destiny project or the SSC, as I've said before, the SSC is a federal law. And a federal law that was passed in Parliament. A federal law that has a process. this law received support both from government and also the opposition. I read from section 106 and 119 of the Constitution, and this law does not stop any development that the Nevis Island administration wants to do. What this law says, that is where I come in as the Prime Minister, is that all you have to do with any of your development is to ensure that the matters of the Constitution, that the Constitution is not infringed upon, that our sovereignty is not infringed upon. If any project were to go forward in Nevis and those are not called into question, then I have no role to play as the Prime Minister. And the Constitution clearly says that. However, if an application of a project is made under the SSZ, which is a federal law, then I, as the Prime Minister and the federal cabinet, go through a deliberate process. And an investor or whoever cannot push and determine the timeline. The timeline is determined by a deliberate, prudent process to ensure that whatever is obtained, that the Constitution and our sovereignty are not violated. And that is why in the law it has an oversight committee to make sure. So these are the only things that really concern me and the cabinet, the federal cabinet, is to make sure that the Constitution or sovereignty and so forth, that those things are not affected. So if any development comes and there are any questions of that, of course, the committee would look at that and advise me appropriately, along with the chief advisor of the government, which is the AGs and the AG's chambers. And I have to be satisfied because this is a very, very serious question to answer. I, as the Prime Minister, cannot afford to make a mistake at all that would in any way suggest that our Constitution or sovereignty would be infringed upon. That would be a mistake of the highest order. And therefore, that requires a certain type of deliberate, prudent, not a process that is deliberately slow. I want our people to understand that. It is a process that is prudent to make sure that all T's are crossed and all I's are dotted, to make sure that our Constitution is protected. I have that responsibility. I took an oath on the 6th of August to uphold the Constitution. And that is where I come in. So in terms of any project in Nevis, Nevis can do whatever project it wants. It's in the Constitution. I read it from section 106 and section 119. I just have to make sure, based on the SSZ and based on what the Constitution asks of me, to make sure that the Constitution is always protected. So I didn't listen to what you're speaking to, but I can guarantee, as I said, I respect Nevis's right to develop. I actually support Nevis's right to develop. I actually put the weight of the federal government to help Nevis to develop with all these millions that are coming in to help the geothermal and so forth. However, on this development under the SSZ, there's a deliberate process to make sure that and I just received this, as I said, in January. So I received it January 2026. It's a very short time, relatively, for considerations to be given as to whether there is violations or not of the Constitution. It has to go through a deliberate process. So if you look at the time that my cabinet officially received it to now, the end of January to now, we're talking weeks, a few weeks. And so so it is clear that I am being prudent, I am being mindful, but I'm not being slow either, because from the end of January to now is a relatively short time. I'm going to give you the specific time when I received it. I might have mentioned it. But I think
Yeah, I think you said January 29th.
29th.
He
Yes.
actually said he submitted it in December.
23rd of December?
It may have got caught up in the carnival.
Yeah, 23rd of December. Everybody was on vacation.
Celebration.
Parliament shut down, everything closed. And then the process, it has to come through from NIA to my cabinet secretary to come through. I cannot consider anything officially unless it comes through that process, and it came through that process on the 29th of January. And that is what I would recognize officially as the Prime Minister. So once it's received on the 29th to now, just a few weeks.
Just as a clarification or as a follow, so is it clear to say then that, seeing that you're getting these recommendations from the ad hoc committee, that a decision cannot then be made on that proposal until all the recommendations or the amendments would have gone through the parliamentary procedure and the amendments made to the legislation?
Correct. Right, and that is going to happen very soon, because we have now received all of that. As I said to Ebony, the AG is putting all of that together, and until he completes it and I see it, because I'm not a lawyer, I take advice from the AG, and because these are legal questions, I want him to put it in black and white so I can see it clearly and be able to speak to it accordingly. Right, so that is correct. And then, but at the same time, two things are happening in parallel. We are putting the oversight committee together because we have received the project officially on the January 29th, so there would not be any delay. And so, as a matter of fact, they would have the SSD amendment very, very soon, but at the same time, they can start looking at what they have and compare to what the SSD said, then have that preliminarily, look at what the amendments would be, and then adjust it accordingly. So in terms of a timeline, January to go to the Constitution and all of that, it's a relatively short space of time for us, because we receive it on January 29th, 2026.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Kailoni Johnson,
Yes.
SKNIS. Let's go back to the CARICOM meeting. As you mentioned, the recently concluded 50th meeting saw a level of solidarity and full attendance from all member states, particularly the regular members.
Yes.
For the average citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis who are just going about their business, what does this level of solidarity, as well as St. Kitts and Nevis's leadership at the helm of CARICOM at this time, what are the tangible benefits in store for them? And my second question, the IMF, as you mentioned, pointed to the strong potential of your administration's renewable energy, which you, of course, spoke about earlier. Were there any other key takeaways from this report that shows or confirms that St. Kitts and Nevis, under your leadership, is indeed heading in the right direction when it comes to its development?
Right, thank you very much. When it comes to CARICOM, and I think that's a very good question, because one of the things I said to CARICOM, our people benefit so much from CARICOM, but we don't tell our people how they benefit. For example, you asked the question, I'm sure you might have done CXC. CXC is as a result of CARICOM. St. Kitts Nevis alone cannot have a reputable examination board like CXC. And because of that, you can apply to almost any institution anywhere in the world. Just think about it. CARICOM offers you that as a young person who would want to advance and develop, to apply to an institution across the world because it is respected. Because CARICOM has come together and we have pulled our resources together, we are able to establish something as reputable as that. That is a tangible benefit from CARICOM. The other one, we can look at RSS, Regional Security Systems. Our police and military receive tremendous amount of training opportunities. The professionalization of our military and our police comes as a result of CARICOM as well. Everybody in St. Kitts knows that if something were to happen in this country that overwhelm our military and police, we know that you can pick up the phone and call RSS. And in less than 24 hours, there will be a number of planes on the tarmac with persons coming to bring back peace and order in St. Kitts and Nevis. That is a result of CARICOM. That's a tangible benefit in our own security. We have CARICOM Impacts, which deals with a different type of border security. We can't do that on our own. We don't have the resources on our own. We don't have the expertise on our own, but together, all of us pooling our resources, we then can afford it and we then can have that expertise. That's a direct benefit our border security, our national security, our ability to advance through examinations. Let's look at another one, SEDIMA, for example, which deals with disasters. We are part of the SEDIMA. Before any disaster hit, SEDIMA already called to inform us. We can't afford by ourselves an early warning system. Do you know the strain on our budget, what that would be? We can't afford it. But together as CARICOM pooling, we get early warnings of when a hurricane is coming. Not only when a hurricane is coming, they tell us when a hurricane is coming and they start to prepare us for the hurricane. And they stay with us during the hurricane and after the hurricane. And that is another direct benefit. Let's look, for example, at trade. Trade within the region allows us to have some commodities much cheaper than if you were to buy them outside of the region, helping with the cost of living. I know the cost of living is a matter affecting our people. It's affecting the world because when the price of oil goes up, we can't do anything about it. When you're going to increase the price of cornflakes in the US and you import it from the US, the price goes up. So every country, we are dealing with the inflation matter. I mean, we are taking steps to lower the costs locally, like, the basket of goods which are zero rated, but you just can't go below a certain price because, again, whatever is the price on the market, it has to be paid for. That is why we want to produce more here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But CARICOM gives you that type of opportunity for trade and interregional travel and so forth. Many of these things that I just mentioned, we can do. So we can't prepare for disasters on our own. Can you imagine facing a hurricane alone without SEDIMA? Where would you write your exams? Go back to England? That is the question. Something happening in your country, who's going to come in to help to suppress and restore peace? Can we count on some major country? We can't. But through CARICOM, we can have that. So these are some of the tangible benefits that CARICOM affords to our people. That is why I take CARICOM so seriously, because St. Kitts and Nevis would have a hard time to exist at the level that we exist today without CARICOM. I can't see how we will do it. We need that type of support. So instead of going to some major country where you become a colony again, we can be independent states supporting each other. So CARICOM allows for what you call collective sovereignty. Collective sovereignty is when a group of states come together, pool resources for the sovereignty of each. That is why CARICOM is so important, that collective sovereignty. Because without CARICOM, we might be begging, knocking at the doorstep of the great powers again. Take us in, we can't survive. But with CARICOM, we can. We don't even need the examination. We have our own. But we ask for their support because international relations, everybody support each other at the end of the day. But we are not going cap in hand. We are going as a region that is respectable to the table to discuss, to negotiate, to advance. That is what CARICOM gives us, collective sovereignty. That should not be underrated or underestimated. That helps us to maintain our independence as a country. And that is why I'm so passionate about CARICOM. And that's an excellent question that you have asked with respect to CARICOM and the tangible benefits that we get. Now let's look at this other one that you asked about with respect to the IMF report and the renewable energy. I'm happy that the IMF has seen this and we are advancing very rapidly and very quickly. And this is where I want to thank the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, that when I meet him initially in 2022, I told him, we are going to have our differences, but let us agree to develop geothermal as a national or federal resource, because you can't do it on your own. You need the support, and you should not have to. We are a federation. Let us do it. You will benefit significantly. The federation will benefit significantly. People across the world cannot understand why up to now the geothermal at Nevis is not developed. When you talk to them about the petty politics, they can't understand a country of 55,000 people, all of us the same, family connected. How is it you all can't agree to develop a resource that would put each of you as independent countries with respect to energy sovereignty? They can't understand it. It's not making sense to them. Just take yourself outside of St. Kitts and Nevis. And you look over and you say, wow, you have a resource there that if you develop that, you can have all the energy in the world at an extremely low cost. And no matter what happens in the world, your energy price ain't affected. And that can transform your country. And why on God's earth you all can't even meet to do that? Just think about it. Put yourself outside of the Federation. And that is the position I took with the Premier. And that is why we have advanced it so much. And that is why I've put so much of the federal resources behind this. Because this develops. Nevis gets cheap energy. St. Kitts gets cheap energy. We got cheap energy across the Federation. We're living good. We could have all the water, all the food, all the energy, the industries, this. Just think about the possibilities that we can have as a federation. And so I was not willing to allow petty politics to prevent such a valuable resource that can develop the federation to get in the way. And so I'm happy that we were able to do that. So renewable energy, yes. The other thing he spoke about was agriculture. As you know, we are expanding agriculture, and we have some exciting news for agriculture. We're going to take agriculture to the next level because it is important to take agriculture to the next level. We are now building out a greenhouse village. I'm going to visit that village later this week. You're all going to be astonished by what you see. I told them to invite the press, where we're just building up, I think 26 greenhouses in one location. It'll be a village. And we're going to pool resources there to increase our agricultural output. The Tabasco farm is progressing in Keyon. It will be a mixed farm. And I don't want to call it the Tabasco farm. We call it the nature's farm. It's not just growing peppers. It will grow a lot of different foods. It's about 110 acres of land. Large farms, relatively to our size, so that we can get into the idea of feeding ourselves. Not just with words, but these are the largest agricultural production areas that we would have had since sugar. It's a serious business. Renewable energy, geothermal, new in terms of really advancing and getting it done. Large farms in sugar, this is also important as well. It talks about construction, and I'm sure you might have seen it. Because now, and I'm happy that the video with respect to where the Bastia High School is, it's, part of it is being built in Barbados. That company is a local company as well in St. Kitts and in Barbados because the owner is from the Federation. A lot of people don't know that. From the Federation, who has done work in the Federation. And so based on the technology being used, the foundational part is being done. And I'm happy that Mr. Javan Liebert was able to visit there to show the people of St. Kitts and Nevis the serious work that is being undertaken to construct the Bastia High School, so that we don't think because we don't see the actual blocks going up that nothing is happening. And this speaks to construction and the hospital. The hospital is the most challenging building to do because it is so detailed. It is not like just running up 4 walls and putting on some paint. Where's the oxygen going to run? Where is the sewage going to run? Where's the human bio-waste going to go? It is so specific, and I think people. So we have gone to bring in another specialist before we actually dig deeper. A lot of work is going on here to give us a second look because we can't get it wrong. And that is what should be done. This government has been in place not even 4 years yet. And look how far we have gotten with a brand new hospital. I mean, people are spreading the idea that the hospital is supposed to appear like that. But a major undertaking like a hospital takes time, not because it is slow, it is just what the process requires. Think about you're going to build your 3-bedroom house and you have to go through the bank and get all your things. That takes you 6 months. Imagine a hospital, which is 10 times, well, many times bigger, maybe 100 times bigger, with all of these specifications and all of these standards that must be met. So it's necessarily going through its process. The Fort Thomas Hotel is advancing very well. You all should go. We're going to build the largest conference room down there. It is very, I think the press should visit it. I think when I go, I would invite the press so you all can see the development, the significant developments that are taking place in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so construction, housing, we continue to build. I think we would have housing being constructed in all constituencies in short order. And I said to NHC, come, let's build. They say, yes, PM, we're going to build, but we're trying to sort out the land here, or we can't get enough workers here, or, okay, the workers coming in. many different things, but it is not a matter of houses not being built. Many houses being built. And so I think it would be good that the press visit these sites so the press can report to the people of our country. And then the next one is tourism. Yachting sector, brand new sector in St. Kitts and Nevis. Home porting in 2027 mean much more flights, much more passengers, much more cruise ships, expanding tourism. And I would say, not to move on too quickly from the yachting sector, that is a whole sector by itself that is huge. The potential for it is huge. We're going to have I think it's in April, May, somewhere around there, what you call a startup weekend, where we will invite the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to see the various entrepreneurial opportunities in the yachting sector. Presently, to maintain the high standard, they have to bring in too many people. But the intention is to train our people. So that startup weekend is going to bring our people in. Do you know the yachts even need flowers? Flowers. Who would think? That's a whole business. I am supplying flowers to the yachts. But they want to know who would do that. And then it has a whole lot of other opportunities available within the yachting sector that can really employ a lot of people. And we can talk about manufacturing. New factory being built in Keon, a next factory going to be built open at the industrial site. In Keon is the water tanks, the pipes, the fittings. First time in St. Kitts and Nevis that we'll have our people, owning something like that. And then we have rituals that will have a hub here to produce all of its plates and whatever it uses for its restaurants right here. And we are in this stage of that should be completed this year. But that is where we are at. Manufacturing jobs, permanent jobs, and those things will be exported as well. The cannabis industry, which is really off, that creates opportunities for our people as well. So there are multiple things that will create opportunities for our people and lessen our dependence on CBI. So the challenges we see in the IMF report is because we have lessened our dependence on CBI. But with all of that, we're still expecting growth. I mean, I'm shocked to see that even with what's happening with CBI, that we are able still to grow the economy. So while we are transitioning, the economy will be growing with that transition premised on other areas and sectors. But I would say to take us back to a CBI-dependent economy, which is very vulnerable, where you can lose your visa-free access here and there and FinCEN report here and there. To take us back down that road is a dangerous, dangerous road. The road we need to be on is the road of a diversified economy that will make us less vulnerable. And the IMF report does recognize that. Thank you. All right.
Yes, Honorable Prime Minister, good afternoon. Avery
Good
Labert,
afternoon.
Freedom FM.
Yes.
You noted that your recent visit to Ghana delivered diplomatic and healthcare gains for St. Kitts and Nevis. Can you outline whether that engagement also produced opportunities in sectors such as tourism, trade, infrastructure, agriculture, or education that could contribute to economic diversification and job creation in the Federation? And one more question, if I may. Analysts warn that the ongoing conflict in the Persian Gulf could have serious consequences for the global economy. Small, open economies like St. Kitts and Nevis are often particularly vulnerable to external shocks, including increases in fuel, food, and shipping costs. You've spoken previously today about transitioning to renewable energy sources such as geothermal and solar, but those projects may take time to come online. In the meantime, how exposed is the Federation to the potential fallout from this conflict, and what measures is the government prepared to implement to cushion the impact, particularly for vulnerable households and businesses? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Avery. That is an excellent question. This morning I met with the financial secretary and the team at the Ministry of Finance, where discussions on our budget is already being discussed. What is being asked is to look at our budget, to do the assessment and to get back with what would be the fallout in the budget in general, and especially with what is developing in the Middle East at this particular point. We are really hoping at this time that the conflict, of course, subsides and that oil prices goes back down and that there would not be a shock in terms of cost. However, one of the things I know we have our social protection programs, which we will keep in place and we will strengthen if we have to during this difficult time. We'll seek to shield our people as much as possible from this through our social programs and that we have in place already. St. Kitts and Nevis, that is why you mentioned, and you're rightfully mentioning, that we are open, vulnerable economies, and our renewable energy projects will take some time to come online. Until then, we are going to buttress our people, our small businesses, so that we can get through a difficult period that can be expected. I want to say to our people, though, and use this opportunity to ask our people to really partner with the government, to come together close as communities to support each other. The government cannot do it alone. When you have a global shock like this, it doesn't matter who the administration is. These things are felt all around the world, from the most developed countries to the developing countries. And so we have to develop resilience in communities, support each other, really use common sense. If you know the price of oil and gas going up, turn off your lights. Conserve energy. If you are driving, drive when it's absolutely necessary, so you can save on gasoline and save on gas. Be prudent with your resources. So there's a responsibility that the citizenry has to take as well. And I encourage us to take those measures so that we can seek to cushion as much as possible the shock. But what is coming out of this is to tell us that we cannot be going through these shocks all the time. We must protect ourselves. And so we have to quickly get all renewable resources going, and we are at that point. And so that in the medium term, we will have those online and we will be more protected and more secured. And I look forward to that. That is why from the beginning, I said the goal of this government would be to develop a sustainable island state. Can you imagine if we didn't have this strategy in place to wean off of CBI and to diversify the economy, which we have been working on for some time, even with the challenges? And I would admit there are challenges. I said to the people, there will be challenges. Because when you're weaning off of something like that seemed like a cash cow, but totally vulnerable, because if you drop out today, you are gone, you cannot bring your country to be so vulnerable. But I'm simply saying that it is working, and we just have to keep moving and pushing together. That is why the Sustainable Island State Agenda is really already building for us some resilience. One of the things I asked to be done is an analysis on what would be the fallout if we were to do CBI. Because that has to be done. So you run different scenarios, because we have to be realistic here, that those things can happen. What would be the fallout? As you can see now, there's a war in the Middle East and the shock. What would be the fallout if there's a hurricane or natural disaster? So every year we have to plan for those disasters. And so you hope that you don't get any, but you still have to plan for the worst. So we have mechanisms where we plan for shocks and disasters and so forth already built into the system. But you are right. We are going to do what we have to do to protect our vulnerable communities specifically, and our small businesses. And at the same time, I am asking our people to, be a part of the solution, manage their resources well, save where they can, manage how much energy you use, because we subsidize a lot of the electricity. So when the cost goes up high, we absorb a lot of the cost as the government. We don't pass it on to you. So if you use a lot of it, is the more we have to spend. So if the price goes up and you use a lot, then the part that we subsidize is enormous, and that's a big strain on the central government. But if you conserve electricity and we need less oil and fuel, that would mean, therefore, we have to expend less for subsidizing. And therefore, it would help us. It would be a positive for us, so to speak. So I want to implore our people to really also take on their own personal responsibility, to ask the communities to band together, and our people to really band together. And these are times when you really want people not to be using politics to say, if the oil price goes up, I don't have any control over it. Tell me one politician in St. Kitts and Nevis who would have control over that. I would like to see that politician. They don't. So if anybody grandstanding as if they could control the oil, the price of oil and fuel, they're really fooling the people. But I think the people are wise enough to know that if there's a war in Iran and the price of fuel goes up and the price of an airline ticket goes up, that has nothing to do with us directly. It is the cost of fuel, so it doesn't matter who is sitting in this seat. That would be it. So these are points where people seek cheap political points when they know for real and they know the truth is that nobody in St. Kitts and Nevis controls the price of oil. That is why we have to get to our geothermal and our solar energy. When we came in initially, there was a solar energy plan that we looked at. And when you examine it, that was just filled with all sorts of things. Couldn't go forward. You say, what is this? Even Skelec was saying to us, we did not approve that. Or we did not favor aspect of that, and we indicated that needed to be fixed. We have fixed that. We have done the consultation. We brought in a company called Castalia, a reputable global company, to do the assessment for our solar energy projects, and they have delivered all of the assessment to us. And that is our basis now to move forward with our RFP to get a 50 megawatt solar farm. And now the Minister of Energy, Honorable Conwys Maynard, just signed an MOU with Taiwan to help us with our green energy transition. And just to say again, look at water. Many people feel like we could not have gotten, many of them felt we could not have gotten a desalination plant. And we just launched a 50 megawatt desalination plant to give our people, as far as possible, 24/7 water. And now we are drilling for water all around the country. You can't have a country where people can't have a bath at 3 o'clock in the morning. We want to eradicate that scarcity of water and give our people access. So I said to our people, please use water prudently. And our water bills in St. Kitts and Nevis are some of the cheapest, if not the cheapest in the region. And I'm encouraging our people to please pay your water bill. We are raising water. You know how much it is in the water bill? $27 million. And we have the cheapest water, I think, in the region, or among the cheapest. And so I would ask our people to please meet so that we can collect that money and continue to build out a stronger water structure, our infrastructure. And therefore, all of us have to play our part to make St. Kitts and Nevis strong and resilient. Thank you. Yes, of course. No, yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Prime Minister Zai Hendrickson, ZZ Broadcasting Corporation. So we know the 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government took place in St. Kitts on the 24th of February to the 27th. So my first question is, as chairman of CARICOM, but more importantly, as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, can you tell us what key initiatives or resolutions emerged from the CARICOM Heads of Government that would affect St. Kitts and Nevis directly? And my second question, well, you kind of answered this already, was if there were any specific agreements or memoranda that was signed as you went to your visit to Ghana. But since you already answered that with the, you said the easier access without a visa to transport people from St. Kitts to Ghana, whether it's for study or recreational purposes, my second question would be to what were the main outcomes of your visit to Ghana, and how is it that they will impact the people of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Thank you. I will speak to the Ghana matter. When I was in Ghana, I'll read a message to you. I wouldn't say who it is because I didn't ask the person to reveal their name. Otherwise, I would have. And while I was in Ghana, I'll find the message. I'll read it to you. I found it very interesting. And all I can say, this person does not support this, is not a traditional supporter of this government. He said this. Listen to what he said. He said, man, oh man. And if the person is listening, I think it will be good for them. You are headlines on TV news, newspapers, and all the tour guides are talking. The largest night spot here is so crowded that when they found out I am from St. Kitts, they put me in front of over 500 people. Safe travels back. That's a petition in Ghana. And that is the type of impact that the bilateral relations would have had directly on it. And I can say he's not a supporter of the government, well, traditionally. But if he was in Ghana, and as far as I know, whether he supports me or not, I am his prime minister, and he reached out. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a citizen reaching out to me. And so I reached back out to him. And he said, what a beautiful place. They love to welcome blacks and black countries outside Africa. And he's having I will say, a whale of a time in Ghana. But apart from that, he said he visited a place called Kumasi. And Kumasi have the rich Ashanti culture, and it is touching. All that I've read to you is a Kittian who has traveled to Ghana and enjoy exactly what we want our people. The cultural impact, knowing where you come from, understanding who you are, those things cannot be really quantified in dollars and cents. Those are deep human sentiments that, as I said, don't have a price on them. And that is what our people would enjoy, traveling to Ghana. And this is a prime example. So that is one of the outcomes, of course. And then broadly, a question was asked about going to Ghana and the type of trade and so forth. I know Avery asked that. Tourism, because Ghanaians going to come here, we're going to travel there as well. The enrichment of the culture as we travel. We discuss opportunities for trade, connectivity in terms of flights from Western Africa to the Caribbean, to enhance tourism, connection, and all the opportunities that come. And so that visit to Ghana, and hearing from a citizen who was there, is very, very revealing. Now, with respect to the outcome from CARICOM, we discussed multiple things. And when we were at CARICOM, I did not sign any specific. But during the conversation, we talked about strengthening cooperation in combating illicit trafficking and transnational crime. Our people are going to benefit from that. Less human trafficking, less drug trafficking, less illegal ammunition and guns trafficking, that those things help our people. Enhancing regional security partnership. We cannot do it alone. Expanding economic and development cooperation. For example, countries talk, I'm in deep talk with Guyana, and I'm traveling to Guyana at the invitation of the president. We will sign an MOU there to connect St. Kitts and Nevis more closely as a CARICOM partner. And so we discuss in areas of education, sustainable development, climate change. All these things that we discuss and we put teeth to them are definitely helping our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, even when we don't recognize.
This is just a last question from me.
Yes.
It has to do, as you said, the marijuana industry and its development. I wanted to know if you at the cabinet level or just in conversation with your attorney general have ever had any conversations about those people who would have been affected by convictions prior to the decriminalization of marijuana and how that might be impacting their lives. Now, if we are moving forward and we're being progressive in respect of our dealing with this plant that grows from the ground and doesn't need any encouragement from any of us to grow, it needs sunlight and water. It's not modified in any way for anything to be done to it. What about these people who are walking around? I'm not talking about people who have enhancements like distribution and intent to sell. People who had simple possession of less than believe it's 15 grams, which you're allowed to have legally now, or without charge. What are we doing to deal with all of these people who are affected by that and have criminal convictions?
Right. That is a very good question. Let me say that we have taken to Parliament and passed in law for the first time these laws that really deal with medicinal cannabis. We know that cannabis, as you say, is natural. It can have excellent medicinal implications and applications, and therefore we are seeking to enhance that for our people. Now, there are persons, because of what the law was, who would have this, and so having this, they would have been convicted. We are seriously discussing to expunge. I know we are expunging, and I think that might be on it if it's a simple possession. So I'm going to take a look at it and ask the age, but I think we have gone there. But the idea is to expunge those simple possessions. Presently, I know how the law set up. You get a ticket if it's not intention to distribute, because to distribute or sell, you need a license. And I think the cannabis authority is up now, and I think they will be distributing license at some point. But if it's just simple possession and personal use, if you violate the law by smoking in public, the law does not speak about possession of marijuana if you have the quantity you should have. You can chew marijuana on the street if that is your preferred choice. What we are saying is that nothing should be smoked. It's not just a marijuana issue or cannabis issue. It is a cigarette issue too. People smoking the cigarettes around, people have asthma and other illnesses and can suffer significantly. And secondhand smoke leads to, especially from tobacco, leads to cancer. So what we are setting up here, because this is a broader question I'm answering, is the smoking in public. I want to encourage people not to smoke in public because you have to respect others. You don't know what people are sick with. If you enjoy your tobacco in your home or in a designated area. If you enjoy smoking cannabis, the right quantity, you enjoy smoking it. And if you use it for medicinal purposes, you use it in the privacy of your home, the law is clear. But what you have mentioned, I am almost thinking there's already the opportunity to expunge for simple possession. I would have to follow up on that. And that is not the case, it is the intention to get it done. Yes.
So my last question, I actually had two, but I will just, in sake of time, ask this one. Regarding the Cuban students, I know the last time you were asked about this, you had indicated that you're monitoring the situation and that so far none of the students have indicated any need for any grave need of help. But as it relates to, and as you're seeing what's happening on the geopolitical scene, where a number of countries have ended their Cuban medical program, we've seen where the Prime Minister of St. Lucia has called into question the future of the scholarship program for Cuba. As where St. Kitts and Nevis stands, what is the position of St. Kitts and Nevis in relation to the scholarship program and the Cuban medical program? I know the last time you said we didn't have a lot of Cuban doctors or nurses currently, but in terms of the long-term future of the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis and Cuba, where do you stand where that is concerned?
Right. So with respect to our students, I want to put it on record, and I think it's on record. Even before I got elected during COVID, my foundation, the Kia Foundation, sent a pontoon, as we call it, or container of goods, so to speak, to our students in Cuba. So it is not just, so I want people to go back and see that. I saw something somewhere on a blog that Grenada is sending what happened to St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm asking myself, do people not remember that I did that during COVID with Kia Foundation? Go and look up Kia Foundation on the internet. It's there. And I have partnered with others to send a next one. I think we have sent about 3 of them. And I think we were probably the first, if not the first, among the very first to send container of things to Cuba. And I did that while in opposition. Not elected even to parliament. I did that because at the time I said, I am a graduate of Cuba. I understand the challenges, especially what was happening during COVID. And I said, I'm going to ask my foundation to support sending a container of things to Cuba. So if you check back, I don't have to show if you check in, but if you check, you'll see that. You covered it, exactly. Yes, you covered it, exactly. And we have done that more than once, and we'll continue to do it accordingly. So far, speaking to the ambassador, nobody has expressed that they want to return home. We have spoken to the Cuban authorities, and they said they're doing their best for our people, and we will continue to send things for our students who are in Cuba at this particular time. And so I am proud of that. With respect to Cuba and what is happening, the question, I gave a whole, it wasn't a national address, but I gave a statement on it, not written, but I think it was an oral statement. I think if you go back, you can see my statement, where I outlined that a serious question was asked about human trafficking, and I take that seriously. So the question that was asked, I did not take that lightly. So I covered in my statement exactly our position. So we make sure we cover those things. Contracts directly with the Cuban professional. They have their own bank account. They have their passport. They can travel back and forth. So those things are already established. And we continue to make sure that those things are in place. As I said before, because we have had so many students went to Cuba and other places to study medicine, we are not so heavily dependent on the Cuban medical program at this time. But as I said, but we are making sure that we, questions of human trafficking around our program that I take very seriously were looked at, and we make sure that we had a number of things in place, and we'll continue to make sure as well.
The scholarship program will continue.
The scholarship, our students continue to study in Cuba. Yes.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Before we officially wrap up this session, I'll invite you to make your closing remarks.
Right. So thank you, Press Secretary. I want to thank the press again for the meaningful engagement that we had here this afternoon. There's nothing much more to add, except I want to end on a note of optimism that even though we are transitioning from the CBI and their challenges, we see growth in our economy and the diversification of our economy. We see major projects being accomplished and major projects ongoing. Let me go through some of the major projects that have been accomplished. The desalination plant. Let me start there. There's a $50 to $60 million undertaking. It is completed, it is done. Have we given everybody 24/7 water? Not yet, but we have increased the number of persons who get 24/7 water significantly. People thought that we could not have achieved that, but we did. We invested heavily in millions in the well in Keon to give the people of that area 24/7 water, and over 90-something% of them get 24-hour water. And now we are building a tank so that it can get to the next few percent of persons who would get that. That has been completed. The Kim Collins Stadium, that has been totally completed. You go up there, the track is wonderful. I think they had sports today and all. A project completed. The St. Peter's Main Road with the roundabouts and sidewalks and so forth, a $30+ million investment, completed. The Connery Football Stadium that was pending for so long and nothing was done under the last administration, completed. The hatchery, where we now even export chicks to other countries and producing a significant amount of egg at this time. Project completed under this administration. So we have had a number of projects completed since we have taken office. We have done over $80 million of road investment, completed. And therefore, I'm encouraging our people to see all of these projects. So now, these are physical projects that we have had completed. The basketball, main basketball stadium, which never received any work for a long time, received significant work. And so with all of this, I'm happy to say that the projects are ongoing or completed. Housing, many houses being built at this particular time. And so I'm happy. But those are the physical projects. What about those projects that did not involve any physical structure. For example, one, let's look at health insurance for civil servants. Can you imagine you have lifelong health insurance? A civil servant, once they get insurance and they're in the civil service, they have health insurance until God decides that he's going to take them home. That's a significant achievement. Aspire program giving the grants to young people 5 to 18. A significant project, a significant achievement. The fleet of ambulances received, the new CT scan that we have. Then we'll be getting our new MRI very, very soon. Increase in minimum wage to the highest in the OECS at this particular time. Significant achievement by this administration. GAE pension, GAE workers' pension. Imagine you had GAE workers who couldn't get a pension. They are now receiving a pension, completed by this government. So we have completed a number of things which are physical and can be seen and touched, and other things that improve people's lives that cannot be seen and touched, such as increase in pay and insurance and so forth. And so I use the opportunity to really expand and show what we have done really to enhance the lives of our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we'll continue to work. We'll continue to make sure that these major projects to improve your lives continue to be expanded. And in addition to that, these major projects will, and I will state here, these major projects continue to provide a lot of jobs. For example, at the Fort Thomas, they're asking for workers, construction workers, lots of jobs. And so we want all people, tourism expanding jobs. We want all people to take advantage of these jobs or to start their own business. I want to say today and announce we are going to establish what you call the Youth Economic Empowerment Bureau. The Youth Economic Empowerment Bureau. That bureau is going to deal specifically with our youths interested in businesses and entrepreneurship. It will deal specifically. Our youths now have different ideas. They're not always in the traditional fields. They want opportunities to start a new business, to enhance their business. So we are going to start the Youth Economic Empowerment Bureau. And that, I think, would be geared directly to empowering our youths. For example, when I go to Safe Harbor and they're saying to me all the type of services they will need, let's get our youth prepared, train them, give them access to grants or soft loans to start their business. If you're over there and they're telling me they want flowers, what if you have a youth who want to get into the flower business? Should be given an opportunity. What over there they say they want a singer because they want entertainment. And a youth say, man, I just want a small system to be able to entertain. Could be there or any other place. But that will be the Youth Economic Empowerment Bureau. And so I want to end it on that and to say to our youth to continue to work hard, continue to dream, think big, and we have been helping, but we want to now focus, laser focus to make sure that you get the help to move to the next level. And to all of our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, there will be challenges, but together we will overcome and continue to advance and thrive as a federation. Thank you very much. Thank all of you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for once again taking the time to engage openly and directly with the members of the media and by extension the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. These conversations remain a key part of keeping the public informed. We also extend sincere thanks to the media hosts present today. To all our viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us. and for staying engaged. Thank you and have a pleasant afternoon.